But I often get some students who say, I just want to learn the Qur'an or understand the Qur'an. They don't say I want to learn the Qur'an. I just want to be able to understand the Qur'an. I don't need or want to speak Arabic. Have you heard that one? Yeah? So they just want to be able to read the Qur'an and be able to absorb the meaning of it, but they don't need to be able to speak Arabic because they think that's not necessary to be able to understand the Qur'an. That is a fallacy. And the reason is, think about it, put yourself in the situation of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, because the Qur'an is primarily addressed to him. Yeah? He's the subject of the Qur'an, it's addressed to him. And then by extension to the rest of us. Put yourself in his shoes and put yourself in the shoes of his companions who were well versed and spoke the Arabic language as their native tongue. So when they heard the Qur'an, and they primarily heard it, they didn't primarily read it because many of them could not read. And so experientially, those people who say, I want to be able to read the Qur'an and understand it, are not engaging with the experience of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, who himself could not read, and with most of the companions who could not read. So experientially, they're trying to access a completely different experience. They're not accessing that experience, because that experience is an oral and a heard tradition. They heard the Qur'an. The Qur'an is referred to as Qur'an, which is a recitation, as bayan, which is speech. Even the word kitab, today we think the word kitab means a book, and we think of a book bound with covers and stitched together or glued together. No. The word kitab, in those days, if you said hada kitabi, that would mean this is my communique, this is my epistle, it's a letter. So the Qur'an is a letter from God to you, it's addressed to you, and you primarily hear it. And so the Qur'an came into an oral tradition. And can you imagine those Sahaba who were well versed and steeped in that oral poetic tradition, when they heard the Qur'an, what they experienced is very different to what someone experiences when they can understand the Qur'an but don't speak it. Because when you speak something, that language lives inside you. It has a life inside you, and then it manifests itself through your speech. If you can only recognize meaning passively, either from text or from hearing, then you will have a completely different experience. That language doesn't live inside you. It doesn't have any chemistry inside you when you hear it, or it has a different chemistry. So if you really want to live and experience and have the lifestyle of the Prophet ﷺ and the companions, believe it or not, you have to learn even the mundane things of Arabic. You have to internalize the language. You have to live the language on a day-to-day basis. That's the only way. So you have to learn the sacred things and the mundane things, because otherwise the language will not live inside you. And which is why Umar radiallahu anhu, he famously said, "Alaykum bi diwan al-Arab." He said, "Alaykum" is a way of saying "yajibu alaykum." It is obligatory upon you. You know, we say "wajaba shukru alayna." You know the song that was sung when the Prophet went to Medina. So wajaba and yajibu is a verb. So you can say wajaba shukru alayna. So shukr became obligatory upon us. And we can say wajaba alayna or yajibu alayna, and then you can in Arabic also drop the verb and just say alayna with the verb implied. Yeah? So it is upon us, literally, to Diwan al-Arab is the anthologies, the poetry of the Arabs, some of which was quite profane. It wasn't religious or sacred. Because the Arabs, the Jahili Arabs wrote about, how many of you have heard people doing these rap contests, where they come up and they freestyle and they insult each other in rap? Have you seen this? Yeah? So you stand up and you lampoon each other. It's like a cussing match. You have to try and destroy the other side with your words. And some of it's quite poetic. And there's a synergy between tribal traditions, because rap is very tribal. Yeah? It's, you know, it started off with one gang trying to outdo another gang, and you could either go and have a fight with bullets, or you can have a fight with words. And in classical Arabic culture, before any battle would begin, this is true, they would first send forth their poets. Not their heroes. Yeah? The heroes would stand back. The poets would come and they would duel each other with words. And the battle could be won with words. There were battles where the poets would come forth and they would have this contest. And then one side would be clearly defeated and they'd walk away in shame. No blood would be spilt. And that comes from a classical tradition, which is where a battle could be won with words. It's a great tradition because, if only all battles were fought with words, we wouldn't have this grief. But so can you see this tradition? So in that poetry, they would think about rap. What do rap artists talk about? They talk about their cars. They talk about how great their gang is and how rubbish the other gang is. They talk about their women, and they talk about heroic things they've done. Heroic. So those are the key themes. And the classical Jahili poetry had the same themes. They would describe their horses. Imru al-Qais says, describing his horse, he says, مِكَرٍ مِفَرٍ مُقْبِلٍ مُدْبِرٍ مَعًا. Listen to that. مِكَرٍ مِفَرٍ مُقْبِلٍ مُدْبِرٍ مَعًا. So he's describing his horse. My horse charges into battle, and it charges out of battle. It goes forward and backwards at the same time, which is physically impossible. But it's a type of hyperbole. He's using hyperbole to eulogize his horse. So they would eulogize their horses, they would eulogize their camels, they would eulogize their women, and they would eulogize their gang, and they would lampoon the other, or the tribe, and they would lampoon the other tribe. So this is the oral tradition. So when Umar radiallahu anhu said, "Alaykum bi diwan al-Arab," he was saying, read this stuff, some of it which is rubbish in terms of content, but it's beautiful in its style and language and poetry. It's poetic, yeah. So this is the tradition in which Arabic has arrived to us. So when people say to me, I just want to be able to passively read the Qur'an on a physical piece of paper, I don't want to speak it, those people are going to hit a glass ceiling at some point in their life. They're going to have some experience of the Qur'an, but they're never going to live the Qur'an inside them, and that experience will always be deficient. So what we want to do is we want to, in this program, bring the Quranic Arabic to life, which means sometimes you have to do some mundane things like, what's your profession? I'm a lawyer or I'm a doctor, right? Because those are the first baby steps. You move towards that. But you will be surprised at how much of that can then translate into Quranic Arabic, or how much of that has a link with Quranic Arabic. So for example, one phrase that we learn within the first 5 lessons is أحب الرحلة إلى البحر. I like traveling to the sea. في الشتاء والصيف. Yeah, in the winter and in the summer. Sounds like a very basic, mundane expression. Yeah. Now, if you could express that in a slightly different way, you could say أحب رحلة الشتاء والصيف. I like traveling in the winter and the summer. It's an إضافة structure as opposed to a prepositional phrase structure. أحب رحلة الشتاء والصيف. Right? Now the expression رحلة الشتاء والصيف, many of you will recognize because it's from Surah Quraysh. Yeah. So لإيلاف قريش إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف. You see, in the Quran, Ibrahim alayhi salam, after he is thrown into the fire, he escapes. Allah says to the fire, be cool and peaceful to Ibrahim. He comes out of the fire and then he says, وَإِنِّي ذَاهِبٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينَ وَإِنِّي ذَاهِبٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينَ. And I will go to my Lord, He will guide me. Now, you can take that, the إِنِّي ذَاهِبٌ إِلَىٰ out. You can pluck it out. And you can use it in an everyday sense. أَيْنَ تَذْهَبُ أَنَا ذَاهِبٌ إِلَى الْمَدْرَسَةِ. I'm going to school. Yeah, so the expression inni dhahibun, if you want to emphasize it, you'd say inni as opposed to ana. Inni dhahibun ila al-madrasa. Yeah, and you'd use the inna. Why would you use inna to emphasize a sentence? Why do you think? Why did the Arab use inna? You come across inna? Yeah. Why did the Arab use inna? Do you know? It's an emphasis, but why would you use it? It's sometimes misused. Sometimes you can be over emphatic when you don't need to. Yeah, the purpose of inna is to dispel doubt. Yeah. So if you're going out of the house and your parents say, where are you going? And you know that they think you're going to go somewhere other than school. Yeah, this is the context, it's all in context. So then the child will say, Ya abati, obviously to be endearing, you say, Ya abati. Instead of Ya abi, it's more endearing. Oh, my beloved father. Yeah, this is what Ismail alayhi salam says to his dad. Ya abati fa'al ma tu'mar. Because his father sees a dream that he's sacrificing his son. He says, Ya abati fa'al ma tu'mar. Do what, oh my dear father. Again, you can use that in real life to your own father. When you want to be endearing, you say, Ya abati inni dhahibun ila al-madrasa. I know you have doubts, but I am actually going to school. That's all. That meaning is contained in just the use of inna there, and it's Quranic, but it's an everyday expression you could use in real life. You see that? So that's part of what we do in this course. We do teach you the mundane, but we teach you how the mundane is connected to the sacred and the divine in terms of Quranic Arabic.